So thank you both. I think everybody knows Stephen Passacantilli and Lydia Edwards. So the format tonight is we're going to give each of them 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell you why they would make a great city council for District 1. And then we're going to take questions from the audience. I'll call on folks and we'll give you 2 minutes to answer. If you need less time, that's fine. The more questions, the better. We'll go until at least 8:30. They both said they can stay longer than that. And let's get started. Who would like to go first?
Ladies first.
Please. I'm going to just do the 2 minute. I'll just give you that 2 minute warning. Thank God for phones, right?
I'll just go ahead and start. So, as you probably all know, my name is Lydia Edwards, and I'm running to be your city councilor. And I think the question is very poignant. Why should you vote for me? And it's been something we've been trying to bring to you for months. And I think after talking with so many people on the doors, after meeting people throughout the district, I think ultimately, and I hope that you can see, that I am running to serve this district. I have a record of service. I have helped to assure that people have a voice, and that has been my career choice before I was running. This district is at a crossroads. We have so many different things pulling on our future, and I think we need someone who can help navigate us through all of it. That's what I hope to be, a person who is navigating and assuring that with all the development, that with the lack of neighborhood schools, that with the massive amount of traffic and congestion, that ultimately we can together come and have a better future. I want to be there to advocate for that. I really firmly believe that one of the most beautiful things about Boston is that it's a city of neighborhoods. That is the character, that's what separates us from New York. And that's what I want to fight for. I want to fight for our neighborhoods. And they are unique in their own beautiful ways. And assuring that when we follow the zoning laws, assuring that we follow the character and history, and making sure that the community is defining what it is, well, then I know that our neighborhoods will be safe. So I want to be your next city councilor to make sure that our neighborhoods last, not just now, but for our children. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for having us. I apologize for being tardy. I was in East Boston. My name is Stephen Passacantilli. I am a lifelong resident of North End. I'm a neighbor to most of you folks. I'm running for city council for a couple of reasons. One is I love this city, and it's my home 42 years. I'm also raising my 2 children here. I have 2 beautiful children that I'm raising with my wife, Renee. My daughter is a 9th grader at the Elliott School, and my son, Evan, is a junior at Boston. And I think I'm the best candidate for this job for many reasons. One is that I think I have the experience to do the job on day one. I have served prior as the Director of Constituent Services for your current City Council, Sal Martina. I most recently served as Operations Specialist under John Barrows in the Office of Economic Development. And I was also Director of Operations for Commissioner Gina Fandacker in the Boston Transportation Department. I think this job is a very operations type job, not because I was an operations guy at City Hall, but because it is a very constituent services driven position. I don't want to get too into the weeds. I want to answer as many questions as possible. I have a passion for this city that is second to none. I've been here. I stayed here through thick and thin when this place wasn't the greatest place to live. It is now one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the city of Boston, and I will find a way to stay here as long as I possibly can. And I hope that my children raise their children here, and I hope my grandchildren raise their children here. And I love this place, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in this country, in this world. And my passion and my service to the city and my experience is I believe what most qualifies me to be the next city council. Thank you.
Dave Kubiak, Cleveland Place. What's your positions on short-term rentals? I think they're destroying this neighborhood. I'm not sure if they're also destroying Charlestown and East Boston. And I hope that the city moves quickly, just doesn't wait for the state, because the state seems to be moving so slowly, but the city, I think, needs to move quickly. What do you two think?
I think that I completely agree with you. Actually, I think short-term rentals and Airbnb is one of the things that's actually destroying a lot of neighborhoods. It's taking away rental stock from people who would come here and live here and raise their families here. It's also, basically a black market hotel system, as people are charging obscene amounts of money and allowing people to stay there. I think at the city level, we should be doing a couple things. I'd like to see us require registry for all Airbnb units, so that going forward, if you're going to set up an Airbnb, I don't care where you are, but if it's in Boston, we'll be able to find you. We'll have your number and we'll know where you are. It won't just be from LLC to so on and so forth. I think you're going to be required. I think you should be required to register. I also am. I really liked actually the balanced approach that Sal Lamartina took when he was looking at this issue, and it really was restricting Airbnb to owner-occupied units to make sure that we didn't have a bunch of absentee folks who were letting Airbnb folks come in and basically run roughshod and litter and take over a neighborhood and do that quickly with no responsibility. So I think what we want to do is make sure that we have a registry, that we actually limit who can have an Airbnb, and then maybe then look at taxing it as well. But I don't want the taxing to come first, because I don't want it to actually be legitimized in any way. I really do want it to be contained as much as possible. So that's what I think about the short-term rentals.
I am not a fan of Airbnb for a few reasons. And I agree with Lydia on a few things. One is it takes away from rental stock, and we certainly need a registry. And right now I'm experiencing a building right next door to my house at 404 Hanover Street that is basically an Airbnb. It's Airbnb, it's a hotel, as far as I'm concerned. Trash, and not knowing who my neighbors are is something that I'm not a big fan of. I'd like to know who lives next door to me. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I have a 16-year-old son. It's something that troubles me. So it's blight in the neighborhood, where they put the trash out. There's constantly code enforcement violations at 404, and not knowing who my neighbor is something that I don't think creates a good neighborhood environment. I like to know who my neighbors are. I like to get to know my neighbors. I like my children to play with my neighbors' children. I think we should have, owner-occupied is certainly something that I would be in favor of if someone had wanted to use the program. And I think that we should limit the amount of days property owner uses for Airbnb. I think in New York City it's a 30-day limit, something along those lines. But I think it should be regulated. Not a big fan, never was. And my neighbors at 404 Hanover Street have validated why I'm not a fan of Airbnb.
Next question.
Mike Stubland, Commercial Work. I want to ask a question. Hold on. And do a follow-up. If you take a period of the last 10 years, let's say from 2007 when Big Dip was finished to 2017 where we are now, do you feel that the city as a whole and this neighborhood, North End, got better or worse, and why? And the follow-up, if I may, I'm sorry, is what are you going to do to make it better in the next 10 years?
So, I guess since if we're going to reflect on the last 10 years, I would say that I love this neighborhood today as much as I ever have. So, putting that into perspective, I think this neighborhood is a great place to live. It's a great place to raise your family. I'm raising my 2 kids here. We have a great public school. I think what we need is a new community center for our kids, for after-school programs. In the district, which is East Boston, Charlestown, and North End, we are the only neighborhood that doesn't have multiple locations for children after-school programs. In Charlestown and East Boston, both neighborhoods have a YMCA, and they both have a Boys and Girls Club. So, in that regard, and when I speak on issues, a lot of times things end up circling back to families and children because I'm raising a young family in the city. So I think the North End's in a great place. I think it's a great place to raise your family. I think it's a great place to live. I wouldn't live anywhere else. So to answer that question, I guess moving forward, what would I change? I would try to add some more neighborhood seats to our schools, so more of our kids in the neighborhood can stay close to home and go to school, in a school close to their home. And I would love to see a new community center, state of the art, built in the neighborhood somewhere. And I'd also like to see some more senior housing moving forward.
I think to answer your question, it's I would probably take a different perspective in that I think it's harsh to talk about a neighborhood being good or bad at any point in time. I think it's really important to analyze the different challenges a neighborhood has. And at some point, the neighborhood may have a challenge with people moving in. At some point, it's a challenge of too much gentrification. And so I think it's really analysis of the way in which the neighborhood has evolved that's really a more effective way of looking at our future. And so I would really like to say that I think one of the challenges we're facing today is really throughout the district, and that is Boston going to be a city for families? Is it going to be a city for the middle class? Is it going to be a city for our seniors? And we've seen that happen here in the North End when we were being challenged with our nursing home being able to stay here. We've seen it happen in other parts of the district as well when it came to the hyper overdevelopment of our waterfront. We are challenged constantly through the question of what kind of city we're going to be. And 10 years ago we had that question, and today we have that question now. So what I think is most important when you're dealing with that challenging question is always looking to the neighborhood, always coming back to the people who would put me and make me the next city councilor, and really checking in with you, and knowing I'm being held accountable by you, all of you, and determining what the North End is supposed to be, and determining what Charlestown and East Boston is supposed to be. I think, again, we're looking at a way to navigate our most challenging moment and looking at how we're defining our future together. I think that that's what I'd love to bring to this job as a bridge builder, as a person who can listen and talk to everyone, even those who disagree with me, to make sure that when we're dealing with challenges 10 years from now, we're doing it together and we're able to get through them.
Another question?
Tom Shimoni. Could you please tell us what more do you think the City Council could and would do under different leaders? And by that I mean we've had a strong mayoral government, and sometimes it seems to us as things change that resolutions get passed in the City Council, but they don't necessarily always get enforced, like the motorcycle muffler law. And sometimes, like on the Board of Appeals, where there are vacancies, sometimes the mayor makes sweeping recommendations, and it seems to me that the council does not hold public hearings to vet some of these. What more could our city council do besides, and I don't disparage it, constituency services, but what more could it do?
I think it's an excellent question because I think part of this race is defining what the role is. And yes, it is about the nuts and bolts and constituent services, but it's also about holding our city government accountable for the constituents. It's about shining a light. It's about transparency. So you're right. In the current system, most folks would argue we have a strong mayor, maybe not a strong council. But I think part of making it stronger is really holding people speak to the fire, having them come in to the city council and explain what each agency is doing or not doing right by us, and asking those questions and holding developers accountable for the promises that they make. If it is in mitigation, and making sure that we're at the bargaining table constantly to push back for the neighborhood. I think that doesn't require an ordinance, that just requires an advocate. And that's what I'll be for this community. And I think also what we really want to do is make sure that, we have a fresh, independent voice that's okay with being a check on the administration and or providing solutions. I think that that's the goal really, is to be a voice for the neighborhood. And sometimes it's not always going to be in an ordinance. It's not always going to be through law. Sometimes it's just standing by in a butter or standing with people who want to go to the ZBA and have a real concern. And I think that that's the role I'd love to be able to have.
Great question, and we do have a city charter that is very top-heavy, but I would disagree that the council is not. I think the council is strong. I think that we have a lot of city councils that have done a lot of great things over the years. I think our current city council, Sal Lamartina, has done some great things over the years. Just with former council Mike Ross, who was instrumental in creating a bid in downtown Crossing. He was instrumental in doing a makeover over by Pont Street Station, fixing the fountain in the Boston Common. I think there are a lot of things that city councilors do, and I think we've moved beyond the strong of the powerful mayor. I don't think that this administration operates as the prior administrations have in the past, and I would disagree that the city council is not a powerful entity or a powerful legislative wing of the city of Boston. I think that as a city councilor, I think Lydia hit the nail on the head, that you are advocating for your constituency and your neighborhood. And I think as a city councilor, some of the things that you do is you hold the administration accountable, you hold Public Works accountable, you hold the Parks Department accountable, you hold ISD accountable, you hold the Zoning Board of Appeals accountable. And I will use the relationships and that I have developed over the years in the City Hall to hold those departments accountable, to hold the Zoning Board of Appeals accountable. And, again, everyone always talks about the City of Boston, being the mayor of the City of Boston, one of the greatest jobs in the country, and maybe it is. I've never been the mayor, so I don't know. But the mayor has always been someone who's been very powerful, and I think we've moved beyond that. I think you see more effect from our local district city councils and our large councils.
Mary O'Neill, I live on Charter Street. Since both of you are coming from jobs in the administration, can you identify any or one or two things that you disagreed with the Walsh administration?
I disagree with the Brooks Act that the mayor filed, and that was passed the other day. It's a just cause eviction ordinance. I would not have voted for that as a Boston City Councilor. I don't think it was balanced enough for property owners and tenants, and I'm a tenant who pays rent. And there are multiple projects throughout the district that I have disagreed with the mayor on, one being 202 Maverick Street in East Boston. So, I mean, those are just to name a few. Obviously, as a former staffer for the mayor, there's a lot of things he's done that have been great, but I would say that the one glaring disagreement I have with him is on the bill that was passed on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not sure what day it was, but it was the Brooks Act. So.
I think one of the biggest areas where I would probably disagree or do something differently is dealing with housing and development. I think we have a real common goal to build more units. I think it has gotten a little off course with how many luxury units we've been building. And I understand that luxury units and affordable are deeply connected, but I would really love to see the city push on developers and bring them to the table and require them to actually build for more families and build for a middle class. Instead of trying to just build a lot more units and hopefully as a windfall have affordable units, I think we should be more direct. Basically saying that Boston's not for sale. And you come here as a privilege to build in our communities and to build our neighborhoods, and so you build according to our standards. And if you can't make the profit that you want, then this is not the city for you. And I think that we should be firm in saying that to them. And I would love to be able to, bring that message as a city councilor to developers and saying, again, build for our middle class, build for the people who are here. And we can work with you. If you need tax incentives, if you need to lower the acquisition costs, what's the balance, for your balance sheet that you need to build what Boston really needs? So I'd like to approach housing completely differently in that sense.
You had a question? Somebody had a question over there before. Sue?
Sure. Hi. The North End, like many Boston communities, have battled massive developments proposed by developers in the DRA, or formerly known as. And often those plans have received a green light with a complete disregard for existing zoning codes, Chapter 91 laws, and above all, community concerns. Battery Wharf was such a project in 1995. If it was built as the developers had planned and they were going to move forward with it, it would have walled off the north end from the waterfront. The residents of the north end were very upset with the plans, and they voiced their concerns, and we heard crickets from our counselors. And it wasn't until there was 250 people in this Mazzaro Center spilling out into the office and the adjacent room on several occasions that the counselors finally recognized that we needed to be part of that discussion. And what we have now at Battery Wharf is really a wonder. I think it's a great project, and we worked hard for that project, but we've got little support in the beginning. We've seen a similar scenario going on at Lewis Wharf more recently. So my question is, or I should say my concern is, donations are a public record, and I'm always concerned when large donations or a majority of donations come to the candidates from developers and people associated with the construction and real estate industry. So I'd like you both to answer this question. Have you received donations from the developers? What's the percentage of those donations? How much have you received? And how do you feel this will affect your ability to represent the residents in your district?
Obviously, that question is directed at me anyway, so I might as well answer it first. I have raised over $300,000, and the maximum donation now is $1,000. So you can donate $1,000 to candidates, and if anyone thinks $1,000 donation is going to buy my support on a project, they don't know me, and they don't know me at all, because I would never support a project unless it had overwhelming community support. So you made a great example of Battery Wharf and how this room filled and trickled into the other room, and that's great. That's exactly what we need to do when people try to push us around. We fill a room, and we tell them, not happening, just like we did at the nursing home. But you referenced Lewis Wharf, and I don't know why you referenced Lewis Wharf, because Lewis Wharf did not happen. So that never happened. It's not happening. Something I'm not supporting. So I don't have statistics, because I don't waste my time going to OCPF. It's not a good use of my time as a candidate, so I don't have a statistic for you. I can tell you that I have hundreds of donations under $100 throughout the neighborhood. People in this room have donated to me. There are kids I went to high school who have donated to me. I have friends who went to college with me that are in the real estate industry. They've maxed out $1,000. So it's right there in OCPF. All you have to do is type my name in at OCPF, and it'll populate every donation I've received and to whom it's from and what their occupation is. If the donation is over 200, I believe they have to tell you what their occupation is. So it's a beauty of technology is it's transparent. You go on OCPF, you can find out who donated to me and how much. But to answer the question, no one will ever tell me what to do except my wife and my daughter. That's it.
So to answer, my understanding is the question is if we've received any development money or from the industry, and yes, I have. Being totally transparent, I worked at a law firm, and a lot of my friends who are lawyers are in the real estate business, and they have donated to me. I think based on my own study of OCPF, I do try to make sure I'm accurate as possible. I think 6% of my donations have been from developers. I'm proud to say that 70% of my donations are $100 or less, and 15% actually are $25 or less. So it's not a high roller campaign. I have not raised as much as my opponent, but we've raised enough to get our message out there. I'm very proud of that. It's been a very good grassroots campaign and one that is built by this community. So yes, we have some developer money, but a majority of it, all our donations is 70% is $100. And I agree to a certain extent. Some people wonder, if you're going to make an investment, what's going to be the return? And I'm proud of that. Again, the majority of our funding has been low dollar. It has come from the community. It's a grassroots campaign, and so I feel only accountable to the grassroots and to the community that helped me become a city councilor. I think it's a matter of conversation and facing the realities. We have development, and I've said from the very beginning, it's not for or against, it's about setting the table and making sure the community has a voice. So we shouldn't enter into the be against or be for kind of dichotomy, because anybody in a position of a city council or an elected person has to hear from everybody. And to give everyone a chance, regardless of whether they give a max out donation or they give no donation, or if they were your opponent. You should be accessible, you should be responsive, and you should make sure that you're a city council.
Does anybody have another question?
Michael Baum, 63 Atlantic Avenue. My understanding is that the BRA has pretty much the ultimate authority when it comes to large projects in Boston. And the BRA is the largest landowner in Boston. It's the largest, it's the planning department, it's the permit granting authority, which seems to be an inherent conflict. Is there anything that the city council can do to affect the decisions made by the BRA group, or is there anything they can do to change the structure so that the BRA isn't so all-powerful and there's some checks and balances?
So I think there are some things that we can do, and just to make sure I'm clear about the question, it's really the role that the city council would have with the BR or the PDA going forward. And I think it's important that we really acknowledge that there is, for some, a real inherent conflict of interest in planning and permitting in the same house. For a long time, it was designed that way, though, because it was part of urban renewal, and to make sure that we were able to get projects through as fast as possible. And I think we're at a point now in Boston's, Boston's history and looking towards its future and saying, do we really need that kind of system going forward? I would love to be able to, set up a committee, an advisory committee that really analyzes the best way and use of the BPDA. That's made from folks from neighborhood councils, folks who are currently in administration, to really have that really deep conversation. I think is very necessary. In the meantime, I think one of the best things that any city council can do is really pushing for transparency and shining a light. We can hold hearings. We can demand that folks from the administration come and explain what is going on so that we, again, are holding them accountable for folks in the neighborhood. We can stand by people and make sure that if we're going before the ZBA, that we're standing with them saying, I do or don't oppose a certain project. I would love more than anything to actually set up technology that allows every single time a variance is applied for, that it automatically appears on a website, or that you get an email or something that notifies the neighborhood a variance has been applied for to do something or X in your neighborhood. I think a lot of people really feel that they're being told about what's happening after it's already been planned and quasi-approved, and they don't feel like they were at the table to really give their voice. The butters meetings, sometimes people miss them because of work, they're not recorded. And I think with technology, we can record those meetings, we can have them up, we can Facebook Live, but we want to make sure that we have as many people seeing what's going on.
I think the most powerful tool we have to I guess combat the BRA is sitting right here in this room. I just heard an example of resistance to Battery Wharf, and I always use the nursing home as an example. And I think the people in this neighborhood and people in East Boston and Charleston, I think they underestimate a great deal how powerful their voice is. And I just said it 2 comments ago. The days of the top-down, powerful mayor, I think, are long gone. And I know some people have this stigma with the Boston Redevelopment Authority, and some of it's true. I think when we work together, like we did for the nursing home, I think anything is possible. And I think we are a more powerful voice to City Hall, whether that's the BRA, whether that's the Zoning Board of Appeals, whether that's inspectional services. I think when we put ourselves in a room and put things together and work together, I think we underestimate how powerful this neighborhood is. And it was, the example of the nursing home is the most recent, and it's the best example. I agree with Lydia. Transparency, lots of times it's on the Board of Appeals, the BRA. You find out 2-3 days later that there was a hearing on Thursday night. You find out Saturday morning, and you're in a butter, and it's frustrating. And there is no excuse in 2017 with the technology we have that people can't be more informed, that they can't be a more thorough process on how we communicate that information to our constituency and to our residents.
Does anybody else have a question?
I do. I'd like to pick up on Michael Mullins' question about the DRA. And I have a suggestion. I guess the question would be, would you support this suggestion? I have many times suggested.
You should take that picture of another picture.
She's got your back,
Maybe
Victor.
she'll help me.
I appreciate it.
I'll get it for you.
Let me start with an example that I've used many times, but I'll use it again. In the West End, there was a project where the BRA received 782 letters in opposition and 7 letters in support. Whatever happened to the opposition and the letters, we don't know, because when the staff presented the project to the BRA board, they didn't mention the 782 letters. Why are we writing comment letters? What happens to them? Do they do any good? Does anyone listen to them? So the suggestion I've made before, which I will make again, is would you support an amendment to the zoning code, the Article 80 section of the zoning code with BRA reviews projects such as that one, which requires the BRA to classify the comment letters they receive. That is, we received 72 comments that focused on this issue, 43 on that issue, 23 on the other issue, and then tell us whether you accepted those comments and forced the developer to adopt them, or whether you didn't. And if you didn't, why you didn't. At least that would give us some feeling that our comments are being heard, are being acted on, and are being subjected to a reasoned judgment. So far, my suggestion has fallen on deaf ears. Are your ears deaf, or would you support such an amendment?
I think Steve and I have pretty good ears. I think we hear pretty well. And I also think, I think your suggested amendment is certainly worth consideration, and I think the goal of it is something I 100% agree with, which is basically saying, set a standard for consideration of community feedback. We don't want, and what oftentimes people feel is that, you sit there and it's almost a matter of form. If they show up, they let you speak, you get all people organized, and that they, in some cases, they feel like the government's already made up its mind, and it's just doing this in order to say that, hey, we heard from the community, and we still disagree, right? And I think what this amendment goal would be, and I agree with this goal, which would be, we need you to demonstrate that you had full consideration for everyone who showed up or wrote a letter, and that you classified what came in, and that you explain why you did or didn't agree with what happened. And I actually like that goal. I haven't seen the language to agree to any specific amendment, but I think the goal is perfectly fine. Another thing I'd actually like to see, beyond just pushing back on the PDA, and something that I do agree is the power of community. And other cities have really tried this new movement of community benefit agreements, which are really allowing neighborhood associations and individual kind of groups to come together to set standards for development, in addition to the zoning code. So that when developers want to come in to, say, the North End or some other place, they meet those standards as well. And if they don't, it's almost like a private contract, and the neighborhood association can directly sue or stop the project. So I would really like to see more power given to the neighborhoods that allow them to really pursue beyond just private individuals coming together and ballot and fighting for the neighborhood, but really holding developers to a certain standard set by the North End, and then being able to stop those projects if they don't meet them.
So you always send me some really great emails and some very interesting information, and it's stuff I always read, Victor, even though it's very thorough and very long. But it's also very helpful, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate you're very tedious, and you're very thorough, and I think that's what every neighborhood needs. And we have a lot of good people in these rooms, whether you are a member of the resident association, whether you're a member of the neighborhood council. I'm not going to make a commitment now. I certainly agree with you. I think you're mentioning referencing the Harbor Garage project, I believe. Was it the one? garden
Garden
garage,
garage.
excuse me, garden garage.
Well,
And
anyway.
I can tell you that, if I'm a city councilor, I'm certainly not supporting that project with the 780 comment letters. I'm in opposition with 7 letters in support. So, I mean, I don't know really how much more, what else I could possibly say to something like that. It's completely unacceptable if that was something that was approved and something that has been moved forward with so much opposition. Again, I want to reference what we did here in the North End, and I guess for every nursing home, there's maybe a garage, and that's unfortunate. But I'd certainly like to see what you have proposed, and I can make a decision based on a conversation I have with you or reading what your proposition is. But all I can say is, as a city councilor, if I had 700 and some odd letters in opposition, there was only 7 in support. There's absolutely no way in the world I would support a project that has that much opposition.
Any more questions?
Do you want one?
Just one more. This question has been asked and kind of glossed over, but what is your ability as a city councilor to enforce existing rules, laws, regulations, city ordinances? What is your specific ability to do that, and or your interest in doing
So, I think someone referenced this tonight about ordinances and enforcement. I will say this, as someone who's worked in City Hall for almost a dozen years now, and being involved in city government, being active in the neighborhood, we don't do a very good job enforcing much of anything in the city of Boston, whether that's speeding, whether that is don't block the blocks in intersections. I know my state rep is sitting behind me. He filed a bill in the State House that helped us enforce our code enforcement tickets. We had an issue with people putting out trash and getting tickets, and for years people weren't paying them because they didn't have to. So, the City of Boston filed a home rule petition, I believe, goes up to the State House. The state legislature passes a law that allows the municipality to buy in, and the City of Boston bought into that particular state law, and now the yellow tickets, I think they're yellow now. Or green, sorry. I don't get them, so I don't know. So the green tickets are now, if you don't pay them, they put them on your tax bill. So something I'd like to do, and I absolutely would love to file home rule petitions that would go to the State House and be bought in by the municipality or by the City of Boston, and one is don't block the blocks. We don't enforce that now because it's not something that has been passed in the state legislature, and it's something that can't be enforced, and it really has no teeth. So in New York City, it's a $500 fine when you block the grid.
That's right.
And those are things I think that we need to start looking at, and those are the little things that make a difference in our quality of life, and those are things that I certainly would look into. But that's a great observation. We stink at enforcement. Other than if you don't park your car on Hannah Street, the meter maid is like right around the corner.
that? No, on the weekends.
I think part of enforcement is accountability. And part of one of the things the city government can do is hold people accountable. You make them come in for the hearing, you ask them certain questions, you make sure that they demonstrate what is going on and what isn't. And part of that would be on the enforcement agencies that aren't doing their job. Be it like inspectional services, if it is, looking at not enforcing our speeding code, it's bringing the agencies whose jobs are actually supposed to enforce them to the table and say, what's going on? Why aren't you doing this? And the biggest, control that the city council has is the budget. And so really not leveraging that power and saying, listen, is your lack of enforcement due to lack of resources, or are you misusing those resources? I think government needs to be more streamlined in its understanding of when we set up an agency to do a specific task and it's not accomplishing that, then have we set up the wrong agency? Are we not holding it accountable? Do we need to withdraw some budget money and allocate them someplace else? So I think it's really looking at, in general, how government is or isn't working for us, and there are specific enforcement agencies, and if they're not working, and you've been hearing from them to say that it's not working, how we can then hold them accountable through the hearings, like I said, or the budget, or even helping to set up another agency that would actually do the enforcement. I agree the process is a little bit longer when you're trying to set up ordinances or laws. We have the home rule petition, and some things I would love to look at is a flipper's tax, or looking at ways in which we can actually slow down the constant flipping and movement of our property at a rate that is to our exclusion. So those are things I would love to be able to come back and talk about how we can really enforce, hold accountable, and really analyze where our money's going.
Thank you.
Well, I have a question. I don't know if anybody else wants that. It's a brief one. Should you be elected city councilor, what's the first thing you would do when you took office?
Don't block the box.
Besides that.
That would probably be that would be probably top three. But I would really like to look into creating a business improvement district in this neighborhood specific to the north end that would help us supplement our city services. I am I'm big on clean streets, and this neighborhood doesn't look as beautiful as it should, in my opinion. I don't think we decorate during the different seasons. I don't think our streets are clean enough. I think our barrels are, those big bellies just don't do it for me. I think we need to find a way to supplement our city services. And I know some businesses will say, you know, I pay a meals tax, and I pay an alcohol tax, and I pay, property tax if I own my property. And some people feel that it's an added tax. But I think if they're in this neighborhood doing business in our neighborhood and profiting from our neighborhood, then I think they can afford a few extra bucks into a bid. I think what has happened, the transformation of downtown Providence, in my opinion, is remarkable. I remember walking down Washington Street as a young kid, and it's a complete 180. You know, you walk down the street, there's planters on their street poles, they are power washing their streets, they have information kiosks, and I think you guys are up here on Saturday night, I think, and it is just complete bedlam. And it's something that I don't mind. I enjoy it. My kids enjoy living in this neighborhood. My wife and I enjoy living in this neighborhood. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I have a very small apartment, 750 square feet, 2 kids, a dog, the whole thing. But I think we need to, that's something I really would, I've been dreaming of this since the days I worked with Sal Martina, and they did this up in downtown Crossing. It'd certainly be one of the first things I would look into, along with Don't Block the Box, and also off-peak deliveries on Hanover Street, or even in just the downtown core. So I don't think we manage our curb space properly, and I think there's a lot of different things we can do to.
I think, honestly, the first thing I would probably do if elected is
Celebrate.
I'd say thank you, for one thing. I would say thank you for this opportunity to be able to represent the neighborhoods. I would be honored, honestly, and I think that I would be humbled with this, I think, responsibility to be able to be a voice for 3 incredible neighborhoods that have unique challenges. And I think along with part of the saying thank you is doing a listening tour. I would want to immediately get down and talk to as many people as possible who are part of struggles, who are part of defining the neighborhood, and really sit down and hear from them, hear from the different ideas that they have for the BPDA, different ideas they have for parks, different ideas they have for their schools, for our seniors, and really sit down and come up with the best ideas I truly believe will come from the community. It is my job to reflect that. So say thank you and go on a listening tour and really hear, and then come back with what I think would be responsive solutions to that listening tour that really helps to. It could be ordinances, it could be community coming together, it could be all sorts of different things, but that's what I would do.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Well, thank you very much.